Hello, this is D, and I'm back with another video. And today we have the PlayStation 5 Pro reviews. They are live, and we're kind of going to go through them now. The one that I was really looking forward to the most was, of course, Digital Foundry's review on the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, their video was about an hour and 20 minutes long or so. Of course, I'm going to link it in the description down below so you guys can check it out for yourself. But it was a pretty good watch. Now, when I got up this morning, I got onto social media, and of course the trolls, the detractors, they were out in full force, and they were clipping like little 1 minute, 2 minute snippets that had some negative things to say about the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, nobody is expecting the PlayStation 5 Pro to do everything perfectly. Now, this console is just coming out, so of course it's going to get updates, and I'm certain that certain games are going to get updates as the week and days go on. It's going to be early days for the PlayStation 5 Pro. I don't expect everything to run perfectly. Developers need to get their hands and or I should say their heads wrapped around the PlayStation 5 Pro architecture and learn the ins and outs of it before they start to get everything out of it. Now, out the gate, I gotta say the results are pretty good. Now, if we look at all of the reviews that I have in front of me, at least at the time of me doing this video, it's getting really positive reviews. Now, T3 gave it a 10 out of 10. The Verge gave it an 8 out of 10. Tom's Guide gave it an 8 out of 10. Tech Radar also an 8 out of 10. Geek Culture 8 out of 10. Games Hub 8 out of 10. Game Reactor UK 8 out of 10. Gadget Guy 8 out of 10. Games Radar Plus 7.5 out of 10. IGN 7 out of 10. And Digital Trends gave it a 7 out of 10. So overall, it's getting really good reviews. Now, they said it's a pretty good upgrade, that you're gonna get the best console experience. So all of the console games are gonna look and play better on the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, let's just get into what Digital Foundry said. Now, like usual, I'll leave a link in the description down below so you guys can check it out for yourself. But Digital Foundry, they actually have a write-up on the review. Also, of course, the video, which I've linked in the description down below. So today we're just gonna go through the write-up. I will play little snippets from the video, but I really think you guys should watch the entire video. Watching it from beginning to end, you get the full context of their PlayStation 5 Pro review or their experience with the console. Now, he goes on to say that there isn't actually a need for a mid-generation console upgrade from the PlayStation 5. More to the point, do the undoubted improvements offered the end product represent a good value, bearing in mind it's expensive at $700? It's a tough question to answer, and all of Digital Foundry can really do is attempt to showcase what improvements actually are and offer our opinions on them. Beyond that, it's up to you. However, it's clear that beyond any shadow of a doubt, the PlayStation 5 Pro is the most powerful forward-looking games console on the market right now. If you want the best PlayStation experience, this is it. So this kind of addresses right out the gate all the haters that are saying that this is finally catching up to the Xbox Series X, or it's not going to look much better than the PlayStation 5, or it's not going to look better than the Xbox Series X. It is definitely going to look better. And they showcase this throughout the review. Now, throughout this video today, I'm gonna have lots of PlayStation 5 Pro footage up, and you guys can check it out for yourself. I can't wait to finally get the console in my hands and give you guys my very own footage, but until then, we have to use the footage that is available. And for the most part, it's pretty impressive. Now, it's early days. Everything is not gonna run perfect out the gate. When the PlayStation 5 launched, there were some issues with certain games. When the Xbox Series X launched, there was issues with games. When the Xbox Series S launched, it had a host of issues. This happens with any new launch of any new hardware, new tech, anything gaming related. These kind of things happen, and they usually iron out these problems pretty quickly, and they issue updates. So I'm sure lots of these games are gonna get updates like early next week, today, tomorrow, launch day. I think we're going to be seeing a host of improvements, and of course I'm going to try to keep you guys up to date, and I know that all these other outlets, they're going to produce a lot of content on it. Now, he goes on to say the first impressions are a little mixed. However, as you may see in our unboxing video, the premium price isn't reflected in the very ordinary packaging. Yeah, I'm going to agree with them right off the bat here. Sony packaging is just trash. I don't know why they use such cheap packaging. Like the PlayStation 5, if you unbox that thing and you don't rip the box, then you deserve a reward. I don't know what to say. The box is really cheap. Now, they go on to say that it doesn't include a disc drive, and that was a disappointment. And I gotta agree, it doesn't have a disc drive, but I think they did that because they want to keep the price down. Because if they added a disc drive, people are already complaining about the $700 price tag. So can you imagine with the disc drive, that makes it like $800, right? So or close to it. and a lot of people might be turned off by that. Now, $700, a lot of people have digital libraries, so it might not matter to that consumer. And of course, you can always get a digital drive separately. And I don't know, just marketing, I think it's just better for them to sell the console that way. Now, personally, I got a disk drive pretty cheap. Now, I have some outlets where I can get these pretty cheap. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I paid like under 30 bucks for my digital drive. I also got a stand, and I got the stand for like, I don't know, $5. So I'm ahead. I know most people, they're probably not going to get these good deals, so I can understand the price. Now, he goes on to say that the launch PlayStation 5 had 825 gigabytes of PlayStation 5 storage, and the 2 terabyte storage upgrade feels like a luxury. Despite testing a range of Pro upgrades, it's still yet to hit the storage limit. While removing the side plates, it's as frustrating as ever. It's good to see that at least there is a Blu-ray upgrade option. Of course, it's got the NVMe drive that you can add more storage. So just out the gate, you have 2 terabytes of storage. Now, I have storage in my old PlayStation 5 that I'm gonna put into my PlayStation 5 Pro. So that's gonna give me like 4 terabytes of storage in my PlayStation 5 Pro. So right there for me, that is a huge upgrade. Now, he talks about the CMOS battery. Now, some people don't understand the reason why you need a CMOS battery in there. Now, it's in the original PlayStation 5. However, if that battery dies, it's hard for you to get to it and you're not able to play your digital games. So on the PlayStation 5 Pro, they added it to the back to make it easily accessible so you can change it in case it ever dies. So that's a good thing. I saw some people saying, why is there a battery there? And it was kind of laughable, and these guys claim that they know a lot of hardware, but we'll just leave that alone, okay? We're not going to be petty today. He goes on to say that the HDMI controller, there is not a difference over the regular PlayStation 5. So you're not getting the full 444 full RGB, you're getting 422, and that's a little bit disappointing. Now, it doesn't really matter so much on the consoles, honestly, but I would like to see the full bandwidth there. Like, Microsoft is using the full bandwidth. It just doesn't make sense why Sony's not doing this. Now, 8K 60 hertz, you would need the full bandwidth, but they're using DSC to get 8K at 60 hertz. And so they're getting the full bandwidth, but 4K 120 hertz, you're not getting the full bandwidth. Now, I'm not quite sure how it works. Like, if DSC works at 8K 60 hertz, why would it not work at 4K 120 hertz? I'm a little bit confused there. I would think it would work, or maybe it needs a software update to work. I'm not quite sure. I'm gonna have to look into that, but that does seem a little bit odd to me. If I'm mistaken somehow, just let me know in the comment section down below. So that is one thing that I gotta say is going against the PlayStation 5 Pro. Like, you would hope that they would do that, as well as the VRR range. Now, if you want the full VRR range, you gotta do it at 120 hertz. If you do it at 60 hertz, you still don't get the lower compensation, and they gotta change that. It's not a hardware issue, it's something that can be done in software. So hopefully this is something that we see coming to the PlayStation 5 Pro in the future. Now, they were talking about Gran Turismo 7 and F124 and how they have an 8K mode. Also, they talked about the ray tracing in F124. They talked about Gran Turismo 7 running it unlocked without a PlayStation 5 Pro patch, and they were able to get 4K 120 hertz like flat across the board. Like, it was running really well. Now, they also talked about the PlayStation 5 Pro boost mode for PlayStation 4 games, and they did a host of games. Now, I would go into the article on this one, but I think the video, I'll just kind of chop it up a little bit so you guys can see it for yourself, and then we'll come back and go into the next section.
Looking at the comparisons here, I've added real-time performance differentials expressed as percentages. But when the game does run at 60, obviously the GPU is underutilized, so the percentage will be lower. It's in areas of gameplay where the Pro is under 60 that you should see how much extra performance the Pro gives. It seems to max out at around 35%, a typical 30 to 35% delta. So yeah, not a locked 60 in quality mode. However, then I tested the frame rate mode, dynamic resolution, dynamic features. It should be locked to 60 easily, but it's not. So I'm guessing possibly the game's DRS system doesn't quite know what to do with the horsepower. There's also the possibility that we're CPU limited in some respect. Even so, VRR will smooth this out. So the Pro, still the best place to play on consoles, even if it's not everything we want it to be. You gave this a go, didn't you, John?
Yeah, because this is a game that I played through on Xbox Series X. That was previously the best place to play it because of the wider VRR window, but obviously it regularly falls into the 40s. The PS5 Pro essentially solves that completely. As you say, performance mode in my testing was able to stay well in the VRR range pretty much all the time. So it's very smooth, and that's the mode I use on Xbox. And that PS5 also gets per object motion blur, which looks really good, which the Xbox version doesn't seem to use in that
Weird.
mode for some reason. And then what surprised me was that the quality mode is actually very usable now, and that runs better than performance mode on Xbox. And you
Right.
get you actually, it now mostly stays in the VRR window, not 100% as your values show, but it's close.
But I think there's genuine application in the 120 hertz mode. Devil May Cry here, special edition. You can unlock the game to run in 120 hertz mode. I'm using, first of all, graphics mode with ray tracing, which essentially removes the 60 FPS limit, so we always have that differential there. I tried the intro in graphics mode. Very similar performance increases overall, but there are some instances where it does seem to go higher than that 35% threshold. Maybe it's the sampling rate on my performance comparisons there, which is higher in 120 hertz mode, but who knows? Oliver, do you have any thoughts on Game Boost? Did you give it a go?
I did give Game Boost a go, and the first protocol for me was Metaphor Fantasio, because that game kind of infamously does not run at anything like a stable frame rate on PlayStation 5 consoles, on Xbox Series consoles, basically on anything almost. It runs at 1656p and it's like 40 to 60 FPS ish on PS5. It's not a good experience. Totally like unlocked frame rate. It also has a 120 hertz mode, which again does not work well because the game dips even below the VRR window on PlayStation 5 quite frequently. I speculated in my video last month that PS5 Pro would basically fix it. And lo and behold, it has. It's basically a locked 60 FPS now. It's a very smooth experience, even in areas where the base console was really struggling. In spots, at the worst I saw was in a spot where the base console is like 44 FPS, 43 FPS. PS5 Pro was like 55, 56, 57. And that's like a pretty extreme scenario. So even without VRR, this game is totally saved. Great experience. And this is like probably the most challenged recent release I've seen on the consoles in terms of hitting a consistent frame rate. And it is obviously a very popular game now. Lots of people are playing it. And I think it's just about perfect now on PS5 Pro.
I have a few more to chime in as well here, very briefly. Silent Hill 2 benefits that may receive a patch, actually, I'm not sure, but that essentially eliminates the stuttering issues that I noticed. It smooths out both performance and quality mode. So performance mode is now mostly 60 with a couple of little dips here and there, but VR smooths that out, but it's very close. Silent Hill, the short message, that little hexadrive free Silent Hill experience, also fixed now, runs at 60 FPS properly, whereas before it was extremely unstable. Armored Core 6 as well. This was a From Software joint. It ran better than Elden Ring ever did, but it still had dips on actual on the regular PS5. It's cleaned up in my experience. That was my game of the year when it came out last year, I guess. Lastly, GT7's patch hasn't launched yet, and I decided to try it out. And what was interesting about this now is you can run it at native 4K mode in the 120 hertz mode, and now it achieves a completely locked 120 FPS playback in native 4K mode, which previously it was in like the 80 to 90 FPS range with the uncapped VRR mode. Now it's just flat 120. You also get 120 FPS replays, which
Excellent.
there can be tiny little dips here and there, but like I've never seen replays this smooth in GT before, so it's quite a treat.
Now, they're also saying that the boost mode allows games to maybe get about 35 maximum better performance over the regular PlayStation 5. Now, they were hoping for 45, and I was also hoping for 45, but Digital Foundry is saying maybe that's just reserved for PlayStation 5 Pro patch games. Now, these games that I'm talking about here and that Digital Foundry just showed you in the video, those aren't patched. The PlayStation 5 Pro, when you enable the PlayStation 4 boost mode for the games, it runs it system wide. So it allows it for any PlayStation 4 game. And I think it's pretty interesting. I think over time it's going to get better. I think some of these games are going to get patched. Of course, Elden Ring was running close to 60. It wasn't a locked 60. And let's just be honest, Elden Ring is kind of a mess on PC as well. You get all of those stutters and it doesn't really hold a consistent frame rate on PC either. So I think 60 FPS is a pretty good result for it here. Now I wish it was locked, let's just be honest, but it's running pretty much close to that. Now they go on to say that Game Boost also improves the CPU performance over the standard PlayStation 5, and we're getting this 10% faster performance that we saw from the leaked documents from Sony. Now 10%, it's not a lot, that's why I never really talked about it. You're gonna get a little bit of uptick in performance, and that's good. You're gonna get better performance, like certain games that are like hovering in like 55, 56, 57, you're going to get obviously a steady 60 FPS. But games that are heavily CPU bound, you're not going to get a big improvement. Now, I know a lot of the detractors out there will say that I said otherwise, but I never said that the CPU in the PlayStation 5 Pro is going to give us an uptick in performance. In fact, I really never really talked about it because 10% isn't really that much. Like, it's nice to have, but I think the big improvements from the PlayStation 5 Pro, personally, from what I'm seeing, especially with all the reviews today, is coming from PSSR. The PlayStation 5 Pro, it is bringing games up to 60 FPS. It's just not bringing everything up to 60 FPS. But I gotta be honest with you guys here. If you have a VRR display and your PlayStation 5 Pro game is running at 37 FPS, or I should say your PlayStation 5 game is running at 37 FPS on a PlayStation 5 and you have a VR display, it's not gonna play good. However, that same game running at 50 or 55 FPS on a PlayStation 5 Pro with a VR display is going to be buttery smooth. So it does make a difference. However, I think to get the most benefits out of the PlayStation 5 Pro, I'm going to say this right now, you need to have a current generation display that is capable of doing 4K, 120 Hz, that has VRR, and preferably that is an OLED model. I think that's where you're going to get the best performance out of the PlayStation 5 Pro, or at least the best visual eye candy from that console. Now they talk about F124 and how fantastic the ray tracing is in it. It's the same ray tracing that is being used on PC minus the ray trace shadows. So you're getting a host of improvements. You're getting better image quality. You're getting 4K, and this game even runs at 8K 60 FPS. That is insane. Now, of course, we know it's using PSSR, so it might not be as crisp as a native 8K image, but it's going to be very close. And if you have an 8K display, you should know there's not a lot of content for that, especially on the console. So it's just an extra thing that's nice to have. If not, most of us were going to be playing it at 4K, 120 Hz, of course, with ray tracing and everything turned to the max. Now, what was really interesting in this review was their description or their review of PSSR, which of course is Sony's machine learning based upscaling. Now, they go on to say that NVIDIA has blazed a trail with ray tracing support and machine learning-based upscaling in the arrival of AAA titles that feature path tracing lighting. While the PlayStation 5 Pro's ray tracing hardware isn't quite the same league, seemingly, PSSR upscaling is broadly comparable. It operates on the same principles as NVIDIA DLSS and seems to use the same inputs, but it's going to be down to Sony to disclose more on the technology, should it so choose. Now, I know a lot of people were saying that PSSR is nothing like DLSS. Right here, we have confirmation. Now, I've said it many times before that PSSR is machine learning AI, that is deep learning machine learning, that is on a neural network. And PSSR is doing the same thing. Now, over time, the models get better, and of course, you're getting better performance out of it. Now, PSSR is just coming out, so it's going to get patched quite a few times. There's going to be new models that get put in. It's going to get better over time. That's the whole purpose of machine learning, or I should say deep machine learning. Now, they went on to say that The Last of Us Part 2 and Ratchet and Clank kind of resolved it really good, and they were saying that it's on a game-to-game basis because certain games ran it better. Now, John was talking about Stellar Blade, and he said the implementation of PSSR in Stellar Blade is fantastic. So that's pretty much it. There's not much more that I can say. I'll give you the closing comments of what Digital Foundry's thoughts are on the PlayStation 5 Pro. I'll come back and just wrap it up.
If you can tell the difference, we've done a pretty good job of highlighting how the Pro improves matters. If you can tell the difference, if you have the funds, Well, it's the best console available at the moment. I'd say. I don't think there's any real contesting of that.
So there you have it. Digital Foundry themselves are saying that the PlayStation 5 Pro is by far the best gaming console that is out. There is nothing that compares to it. The PSSR is a generational leap in technology. The GPU is bigger now. The downside is that the CPU isn't as good as we would like it to be. All of us obviously would have liked them to replace the CPU. The CPU that is inside the PlayStation 5 Pro is definitely a bottleneck in it. Now, the good thing is that most games aren't bottlenecked by the CPU, but certain games that are heavier on the CPU, the PlayStation 5 Pro is not going to give you that much of a big boost if it's really heavy on the CPU. However, if the game is more GPU bound, in that scenario, the PlayStation 5 Pro will give you better frame rate. We saw examples today of games that were at 30 FPS but ran at 60 FPS on the PlayStation 5 Pro. We saw other games that were hovering at like 47 FPS and were running like 58, 59 on the PlayStation 5 Pro. But the truth of the matter is that the PlayStation 5 Pro is going to be the de facto place to play your console games. When Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out, people are going to want to play it on the PlayStation 5 Pro, regardless if it's 60 FPS or not, because it's going to look and run best on that console. And I think over time, as we get more updates to these games and as more games come out and we compare them, and of course the system matures and developers get more familiar with the console, we're going to see fantastic performance out of the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, I think when developers actually target the PlayStation 5 Pro, I think that's when we're really going to see some fantastic things that probably we wouldn't see if the PlayStation 5 Pro didn't exist. Now, I'm going to have the console myself and I'm going to give you guys my own real world review. We're probably going to have some real footage of me unboxing the console. We're going to try to record the frame rates. We're going to try to compare the PlayStation 5 version to the PlayStation 5 Pro version. We're going to test a host of games. I don't think that video is going to be out until late Friday night, to be honest with you guys, because I'm just going to need time to record all the footage and, of course, compare the data and just prepare everything. But on launch day, which should be the same day when you're watching this video, I will have a live stream showcasing the PlayStation 5 Pro, and I'll give you guys like my first initial impressions. Anyways, I want to know what you guys think about all this. What do you think about all of the reviews? All of them were very positive. The only cons on the system was definitely the price. People thought that the price, it's kind of a lot to ask for people when you have a PlayStation 5 console that can play the same games. However, for people that want a better console or just want performance that is the best, the PlayStation 5 Pro definitely delivers. Anyways, you guys let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Like I usually say, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one.